Hi guys, this is Josh Lloyd here. You may or may not know me. I am the host of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast. I'm also the lead analyst at Basketball Monster. And this year on Al's channel, I'm going to be giving you the NBA First Look DraftKings pricing for DFS throughout the season. Hey, why are we waiting? Let's get straight into looking at the games. It's a 2-game slate to kick things off for the season. Normally, the beginning of the NBA season, not even talking about this sort of year with all the weird stuff going on and the truncated preseason. Opening night is always weird. 2-game slates are always weird. Compressed preseason is going to make this extra weird. I'm expecting a very, very strange night in the NBA, especially for DFS. Let's have a look, though, and see what we do have around. The first game, it is the Warriors and the Nets. The Nets come in as handy favorites, 7-point favorites, which is the highest spread of the day. And the total here is 230, which is also the highest total of the day. We imagine that a Steve Nash-run Brooklyn team is going to be up-tempo. We don't know that for sure, but that's just going by his past, by the guy who's his assistant coach, Mike D'Antoni. So we're expecting a little bit of up-tempo-ness from this squad. We know the Warriors in the past have been up-tempo. They did slow things down a little bit when Kevin Durant joined them, so we'll have to see how that all works. But there is some real value here in this one, especially considering that it's unlikely that Draymond Green is playing in this game. So that does open up value. That's the first thing we need to know about this contest. That is the major injury news that we need to be aware of, is that Draymond is unlikely to play for the Warriors. That's likely going to put Eric Pascal into the starting lineup, and that's going to give us some value over there. So if you have a look at the pricing, Pascal is 3,800. Like, that is just very, very cheap for a guy who's going to come in and I think really have a significant chunk of value. Now, he is a guy that does thrive when he's got the ball in his hands, and Steph and Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins are going to have the ball in their hands. But at that price, it's really hard to avoid Pascal. I think he's going to be really high roster percentage throughout cash games, and even in GPPs, just having him at a sub $4,000 price, it's really hard to ignore that sort of value that Pascal's going to provide. He is a player who it can be frustrating at times, but I do think that this is he a 30-point player? That's probably his upside, and at 3,800, look, there's real value in that. I think he could have a 35-pointer, but even if he gets you 24, 25 points, I think there is some decent value here in Eric Pascal. So to me, he really is that big value guy on this slate, opened up by that Draymond Green injury. You got the studs, of course. You've got Kyrie, you've got Steph, and you've got Kevin Durant. Durant is the highest priced player here. He's at 9,800. Steph's at 93. Kyrie is at 8,500. So there's a bit of a price difference there between Kyrie and Steph. I think I prefer using Irving, saving myself that extra $800. I think there's a chance that they can have almost equivalent production in terms of what they're giving us, and then you save that extra cash. And I think Irving looks like the better option there. This Nets team obviously is probably going to be better than the Warriors, so I think that helps. Irving looked great in preseason. Steph looked great as well. I'm not saying that we avoid Steph. There is still value in using him, but Irving, I think, has got some real value here. And then if we want to look at, Durant's probably the least valuable, I'd say, because he is pushing that $10,000 mark. Now, that might, people will be worried about using Durant. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case just because of his return from his Achilles injury. And that might push him down a little bit in terms of the value, or in terms of how much he's rostered in a GPP. Maybe you want to turn that direction. I still think in terms of the high-end guys, I'm looking at Kyrie and I'm looking at Steph a little bit more closely. If I want to look at another cheaper option, I'm going to flick it across to the center position. James Wiseman, it does appear like he is going to be in play to start. I don't know how much he's going to play to begin this season, but the Warriors are raving about this guy. He's going to get opportunities. There is no Draymond, so it cuts out the Draymond at center type minutes. There is still going to be Marquise Chris and Kevon Looney. Now, I wouldn't say that Wiseman is a guarantee for big production, but at sub 5,000, it just allows you maybe to even put in a combination of Steph and Kyrie into your lineup just by getting that cheaper option of Pascal and that cheaper option of Wiseman there. So they're probably the real standouts for me. I don't mind a guy like a Joe Harris as well, who comes in at 4,800. I think there is some value in him. Maybe he's a 24, he's a 25-point type of player, which is not bad value. It's more of a cash value sort of thing. Guys like LeVert and Dinwiddie, they're a little bit all over the place. I wouldn't want to spend the 6,500 on Karis LeVert It just seems too high, given that he's going to now have to coexist in the situation where he's playing alongside Irving and Durant, and he didn't have that issue last year. And the same thing goes for Dinwiddie, who is likely going to be a starter, but yeah, how much does that mean he's going to handle the ball? As you can see, he averaged 20 points per game and 37 DraftKings points per game last year. Is that enough? Don't forget, guys, to go and hit subscribe and turn on that bell for notifications as well, so you're never going to miss one of these episodes or any of the other shows that Al has here on his channel, NFL, NBA, whatever it is. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button down below. So I think they're the real value plays here. We're looking at Pascal. I think Wiseman's got a bit of sneaky upside. I like Irving as a more expensive guy. I'm a bit worried about the Nets center spot. I think DeAndre Jordan is probably the one to go for, but 5,600 is not an enticing price point for DeAndre Jordan there at all. So I'm not sure that that's super enticing, considering he's probably going to combine with Jarrett Allen, and I know that 6,200 for Jarrett Allen is not one that I am keen about really in any definition at all about the word keen. I am not there with DeAndre Jordan or Jarrett Allen for that matter. The second game we take a look at is the Battle of LA, the Clippers and the Lakers. The Lakers come in at favorites here. They're 3-point favorites. The total is 223.5, so still a relatively high price. And we've got some questionable tags we're to look at. Dennis Schroeder for the Lakers and Marcus Morris for the Clippers. I would imagine that Schroeder is right to go. Morris, I'm a little bit doubtful. He has had some knee problems in the past. The knee problem kept him out of the preseason. If he is out, they were starting Nick Batum in preseason. He's unlikely to be a good fantasy option, but it does increase some value for guys like Lou Williams, Kawhi and PG probably get a marginal boost. It probably helps Serge Ibaka a little bit as well, because they might run with some of those Ibaka and Zubac's combination minutes. So I think that's worth taking a look at. If we want to look at the value here, I do really like LeBron. He is at 9,600. It is a high price tag, but in terms of all of those high price guys across all the games, I think LeBron comes out as probably having the best value. I don't mind 10,000 for Anthony Davis as well, and I think if we're looking at in combination with compared to Kevin Durant at 9,800, I'll take LeBron and I'll take Davis over him. I still think Kyrie coming in at sub 9,000 is probably superior. Not necessarily superior to LeBron. I think they're about even in terms of their value, but maybe a little bit better than spending that 10,000 on Anthony Davis. But Davis at that price at 10,000 is still absolutely someone that we can take a look at. There are less good cheap options. I know that's great, not great English. Less good cheap options. There's no Eric Pascal in this game. I think if we want to look at some cheaper guys, actually, if you want to talk cheaper guys, cheaper based on their value, I think we have to look at Paul George. Right, 7,800 for Paul George. He averaged 38 DraftKings points last year. The dude played under 30 minutes a night. He's at 7,800. He should be a 40-point guy, maybe a 45-point guy. If you want to avoid the 10,000 that you're spending on Davis or LeBron or Durant, and then you can get a Kyrie, Paul George combination, that enables you to spread your value out across this slate, which might not be a bad option for a cash game. Probably in a GPP, you might want to go a different direction. But I do really like Paul George at that price. I think he comes in really nicely. If we want to go a little bit cheaper, I think it's the big men we look at. Montrezl Harrell and Serge Ibaka at 53 and 5,200 respectively. You can throw Serge in there at that 5,200 mark. I think that's a pretty solid price there for him. Dennis Schroeder at 58, with the uncertainty of his role, it's probably a no from me. And the fact that we're uncertain about his ankle injury as well is somewhat of a concern. I guess the other name that we do have to mention is Tailon Horton Tucker. We know what he did in the preseason, putting up some big numbers. He is basically almost a minimum salary guy, 3,500. Will he even be in the rotation? I don't know. I think he's going to be a really popular GPP option. And while if he wasn't that popular GPP option, I think he would be useful. But I think a lot of people are going to put him in. I would like, in a GPP, to throw Luke Kennard in instead. 3,600. I think his role is a little bit more secure than Horton Tucker. And I think you're going to see his roster percentage being way down in comparison to where Tucker's is going to be. You could also throw Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in that mix at 4,200. We know KCP had a really strong finals. He wasn't that great during the regular season, but I thought he looked pretty good in the preseason. But I think a lot of people are going to jump on the Tailon Horton Tucker cheapy type price area, and you can throw in a guy like KCP or Luke Kennard in there. I reckon that might just set you apart in those sort of situations. We've got 2 games on. I'm really excited to see how this all plays out for the NBA. Hope you guys are going to be joining me for NBA First Look right across the season. Monday to Friday's games covered here for you. Don't forget you subscribe, you hit the bell, leave comments, give thumbs up, give likes, all of that sort of stuff. Again, you can find me as well on the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast and on my channel, which will be linked in the description here and in the title. That is the Josh Lloyd Fantasy Basketball channel. So you can find me over there for more season-long fantasy stuff. Guys, I'll see you later.